are surrounded by lies. And I don't mean just the big ones, those that scandalize and shake governments. I'm talking about the small, everyday ones, the ones you swallow without blinking, the ones you yourself pronounce without realizing it, those that have become part of your way of speaking, living, being. And here comes the uncomfortable part. You know it. You know, and yet you continue. Because the lie, although dirty, sometimes comforts. Sometimes it's easier than the truth. Do you know how many times you've lied this week? You have no idea. And that's the real problem. The lie has infiltrated so deeply into your life that you no longer know where the acting ends and reality begins. You get up in the morning and lie with a forced smile. You say you're fine when you can't even stand yourself. You say, it's nothing, when inside you're burning. And the worst part is that everyone does it. You are not alone in this farce. Lying is not just a moral slip. It is an architecture, a complex building constructed over centuries of fear, survival, need. Because yes, lying is a necessity. You were not born to be completely honest. The total truth is unbearable, not for you, but for others. Imagine saying exactly what you think every time you open your mouth. You would be a social monster. Because unfiltered truth, without context, without empathy, destroys more than it builds. From a young age, we are taught to lie. Subtly, elegantly. We are rewarded for hiding the truth when it can hurt. We are applauded for smiling even when we are broken. And without realizing it, we turn that skill into armor. But here's the trap. That armor is also a prison. Psychology is clear. Lying wears you out. Every time you utter a lie, your brain goes into conflict. You have to remember what you said, how you said it, who you told it to. And that cognitive effort accumulates. It turns into anxiety. It turns into insomnia. It turns into distrust of yourself. Because there comes a point where even you don't know who you really are. Lying, in essence, is a defense mechanism. We use it to avoid pain, to protect our image, to maintain relationships. But every lie is one more brick in the wall that separates you from authenticity. And the higher that wall, the harder it is to find yourself. Humans are programmed to survive, not to be happy. And in that programming, lying holds a privileged place. It is the evolutionary trick that allowed us to live in society. If we told the truth all the time, we couldn't collaborate, we couldn't coexist. But the question is not whether lying is useful. The question is, how much of your life are you sacrificing to maintain it? There is an archetype that appears in almost all cultures. The trickster, the trickster. He is the liar, the one who plays with the truth. But he is not just a liar. He is a revealer. Through his lies, he shows uncomfortable truths. He breaks structures. He destabilizes systems that seemed unbreakable. Because sometimes lying is the only way to tell the truth. And here begins the part that will make you uncomfortable. Because you too play that role. You too have been the trickster. You've lied to survive, yes. But you've also lied to manipulate, to win, to control. Not all your lies are defensive. Some are offensive. Some are cruel. Some have left scars on others. But we are not here to judge. We are here to understand. Because only when you understand the origin of your lie can you start to undo it. Why did you lie that time? What were you afraid of losing? What did you want to avoid? The answers are not comfortable, but they are necessary. We live in a society that rewards appearance, that prefers the mask before the naked face, where being authentic is a risk, where saying what you think can cost you a friendship, a job, a relationship. And in that ecosystem, lying is adapting. But it is also corrupting little by little. Lying has a cost, always. It may not be immediate, it may not be visible, but it's there. it accumulates like dust under the carpet. And when it explodes, it does so with violence. Relationships that break, trust that disappears, identities that collapse. Because when your whole life is built on half-truths, any tremor makes it collapse. And yet we cannot stop lying, not entirely, because being completely honest all the time would be unbearable. So, what do we do? How do we live with that duality? How do we learn to discern when a lie is necessary and when it is a poison? Here enters consciousness. True power is not in stopping lying, but in knowing when you do it, why you do it, and what you are giving up. Lying consciously is an act of control. Lying without realizing it is slavery. Think about it. How many times did you say yes when you wanted to say no? How many times did you laugh out of obligation? How many times did you keep silent out of fear? Those are also lies. And each one of them has taken you a little further from yourself. We live surrounded by messages that push us to pretend. Social networks full of perfect lives, relationships based on what we are supposed to feel, fake successes, hidden failures. The world demands that you lie to fit in, and you, like most, obey. But every lie you pronounce to please others is a betrayal of yourself. Being authentic is an act of courage. It means being willing to be rejected, to be misunderstood, to walk alone. But it is also the only path to a meaningful life, because a lie, although useful, can never give you peace. Only the truth does. And here is the toughest part. Most are not prepared to live with truth. They prefer the comfort of illusion before the vertigo of reality. But you are not most people. If you are here, listening to this, it is because something inside you is already tired of masks. Because you know, even if you don't say it, that living a lie is a slow form of dying. Authenticity does not promise an easy life, but it promises a real life. A life where you can look at yourself in the mirror without looking away. A life where your words have weight because they are not empty. A life where your presence is not an act, but a statement. Being genuine is to resist. Resist the pressure to please. Resist the urge to protect your ego. Resist the fear of judgment. But every act of truth, no matter how small, is a victory. A victory against a world that wants you to dissolve, that wants you to be just one more. And here comes the final blow. You cannot build anything lasting on a lie, not a relationship, not a career, not an identity. Everything worth having is born of truth, even if it hurts, even if it leaves you exposed, because vulnerability is not weakness, it is the price of freedom. So I tell you bluntly, start taking off the mask, little by little, in silence. You don't have to shout your truth, you just have to live it. And when you do, something incredible happens. People start to recognize you, not for what you pretend to be, but for what you are. And that connection, that authenticity, is worth more than 1,000 empty applause. Remember this: the lie protects, but at the cost of your soul. The truth liberates, although at first it hurts. You can't have both. Choose. And if you choose the truth, be prepared. Because the world is not going to make it easy, but neither are you here for it to be easy. No more masks, no more acting, just you. Raw, imperfect, true. And that, believe it or not, is enough to change everything. We are going to open a new crack in this same wound, one that almost no one dares to look directly at. The lie you tell yourself. Because yes, lying to the world is one thing, but lying to yourself, that's more dangerous, more silent, more deadly. It's the type of lie that is not spoken aloud, that does not need words, because it lives in your decisions, in your excuses, in the stories you repeat over and over until they seem like truths. Have you ever wondered how many parts of your life are built on internal fictions? How many times have you told yourself that it wasn't the time? That you weren't ready? That you weren't worth enough? You sell yourself stories. Stories that sound good, that justify your paralysis, that turn your fear into logic, your cowardice into prudence. I didn't try because I don't want to fail. You didn't try because deep down, you don't believe you're capable. And since you can't bear that truth, you lie to yourself. You paint a version of yourself where you're not the culprit. The environment, the family, the country, the economy, the climate, Mercury retrograde. Anything but you. There's always an external factor to cover up the hole in your responsibility. And the most fucked up part of this lie is that it camouflages as protection. I'm taking care of myself. I'm being realistic. But in reality, you're sabotaging yourself. Because every time you repeat that sweetened version of why you don't do what you should, you're reinforcing the idea that you can't. You repeat it so much that you end up believing it. And that's where the irreversible damage begins. You become your own enemy. You no longer need the world to stop you. You stop yourself. And no, this is not cheap self-help. This is not one of those overcoming speeches that say, believe in yourself and everything is possible. This is raw. This is looking in the mirror and accepting that you have betrayed yourself. That there are parts of you that you have let die just to maintain an image. That you have given up on dreams because you preferred to feel safe. That you have killed real opportunities just to not face the risk of actually seeing yourself fail. And you know what happens when you lie to yourself for too long? You get used to it. You become functional. You can hold a conversation, work, make plans, but inside you're dead. Because there's no fire in someone who doesn't allow themselves to be authentic. There's no purpose in someone who lives just to sustain an illusion. Lying to oneself is the hardest lie to break, because to do it, you have to be willing to destroy the identity you've built. You have to stop being who you thought you were. And that, my friend, gives vertigo. Because the truth leaves you with no excuses. It gives you no comfort. It only gives you freedom. But a freedom that demands total responsibility. There's something that almost no one mentions when we talk about being authentic. That you're going to lose things. You're going to lose people. You're going to lose stability. You're going to lose comfort zones. Because when you stop lying to yourself and start acting from the truth, everything that wasn't real in your life starts to crumble. And it hurts. But that pain is necessary. Because what comes after is yours. Real. Unbreakable. And do you know what's the most ironic? That the more you lie to yourself, the more you demand truth from others. You judge those who are false. You point out the hypocrites. But in silence, you are also one. Hypocrisy is not just pretending in front of others. It is living a life that you know does not represent you. It is staying in a place where you don't fit just because you're afraid of being outside, alone, vulnerable. And here comes the final blow of this part. Your comfort zone is a heated lie. Everything you believe protects you today, if it's based on fiction, is destroying you inside. It's taking everything away from you. Time, energy, authenticity, life. And the more you sustain it, the more you move away from who you could become. Because yes, there is a version of you out there that doesn't need masks, that doesn't hide, that doesn't justify itself. But you're not going to find it by repeating the same old stories. So here's the challenge. Start disproving yourself. Make a list, mental if you want, of everything you repeat as truth in your life. I'm not good at this. It's not my turn. That's not for me. Each phrase that limits you is a clue. Ask yourself, do I really believe it? Or is it an elegant way to avoid pain, rejection, the possibility of failure. Start tearing down the curtain. It hurts, yes. But behind there's something much more important than security. There's freedom. The freedom to be you without lies, without excuses, without sets. The freedom to walk without the constant weight of having to pretend. Because the big lie is not the one you tell, it's the one you live. And every day that you keep sustaining it, you move further away from your purpose. You become a character, an actor trapped in a role that doesn't even fit anymore. But you didn't come to this world to play an acceptable version of yourself. You came to be you, without filters, without a script, without fear. And that, although it hurts, is the only thing that really matters. So let's continue. Because now that we've opened that wound, we're not going to cover it up. We're going to dig deeper. Because there's something even more twisted, more fascinating, more real when you start to love your own lies. Yes, you caress them. You protect them. You decorate them with intellectual, spiritual, or emotional justifications. You turn them into part of your identity. Because if you lose them, if you dismantle them, you're left naked, without a story, without a shield, without a drama to tell. And this is something few dare to admit. There are people who prefer their pain before changing, because they no longer know how to live without it. It's their emotional comfort zone. The role of victim gives them meaning. It gives them attention. It gives them a narrative. I'm like this because my childhood was tough. I don't trust anyone because they betrayed me. I don't move forward because they always sabotage me. You know what that is? It's your ego disguised as self-knowledge. It's your mind building a cell with bars made of poorly digested experiences. And here comes an uncomfortable truth. When you get used to lying to yourself, you start to distrust everyone. Because you project, because you know how easy it is to pretend, to manipulate, to adapt, to invent. And then you think everyone does the same. That no one is authentic. That love is always interest. That friendship is always convenience. That help is always conditional. But the world is not a mirror of your lies. It's a field where your level of consciousness is reflected. The more truth there is in you, the more truth you can detect outside. The more falsehood you carry, the more suspicions you see in others. And if you think about it, this explains why there are people who can't stand silence, who need constant noise, distractions, screens, empty conversations. Because in silence, everything is heard. In silence, your lie screams. Your mind no longer has excuses. It can't run from itself. And that moment, that instant when you face what you really are, is brutal. It's like looking at yourself without makeup after a lifetime on stage. That's why you avoid being alone. Because the truth, when there's no noise to cover it up, hurts. But listen to me well. That's where it all starts. At that exact point where you can no longer keep pretending. When your body starts to get sick from what your soul can no longer sustain. When your relationships fail not because of what you do, but because of what you don't dare to show. When the emptiness can no longer be filled with anything, that is the threshold, the line that separates those who wake up from those who continue sleeping. And there's another more subtle, more silent, more devastating lie, the lie of eternal potential. The one that makes you say, someday, later, when I'm ready. You live with the illusion that you have all the time in the world to become who you should be, but you don't. You don't know how many sunrises you have left. And while you plan, organize, and procrastinate elegantly, life goes by, and you remain just a promise, a broken promise. The hardest truth is this: time doesn't wait for those who are getting ready. And the lie that has destroyed more lives is not, I can't, nor I'm not worth it, nor it's not the time. It is, I'll do it later. Because that gives you a false sense of control, as if postponing were the same as choosing. But it's not. Postponing is giving up disguised as prudence, and silent giving up kills more dreams than any failure. And here we're going to enter an even deeper zone: the inherited lies. The ones you didn't invent yourself, but accepted as dogma. The ones that come from your family, your culture, your environment. Men don't cry. Women must sacrifice. Money is dirty. True love can do everything. Have you ever sat down to question those ideas? Because many of your current decisions are not being made by you. They are being made by the boy or girl you were, with the values that were implanted without permission. And do you know what's the most fucked up thing about those inherited lies? They camouflage as love. They were handed to you with good intentions, with affection, with protection. But that doesn't make them true. What your parents believed is not necessarily real. What your teachers preached is not absolute. What your environment repeats is not law. And until you sit down to dismantle those structures, you keep acting with someone else's scripts. And every time you act from a script you didn't write yourself, you betray yourself. Now, let's go to a point that blows all this up from the inside. The fear of truth is not fear of pain. It's fear of freedom, because once you know the truth, you can no longer play dumb. You can no longer go back. You can no longer keep blaming the past, the system, your partner, your boss, your life. The truth leaves you alone with your reflection. And there you realize that the only one who can change your life is you. And that scares, because it implies work. It implies loss. It implies leaving behind everything you used to justify yourself. But here's the brutal twist. When you go through that storm, there's no turning back. Your mind expands, your identity changes. You can no longer settle for superficial relationships, for empty conversations, for borrowed goals. You start to need more. More depth, more meaning, more coherence. And although at first that makes you feel alone, over time it connects you with people who are on the same path. People who no longer lie, who no longer want to pretend, who are tired of the collective farce. And there, finally, something magical happens. Real connection. Soul to soul, without masks, without filters, without character. That's the reward for dismantling your lies. It's not fame, it's not success, it's peace, real peace. Not the peace of those who have everything, but the peace of those who don't need anything to feel alive. Because they know who they are, because they recognize themselves in the mirror, because they are no longer running. And now tell me, are you going to keep feeding the lie? Or are you going to have the brutal courage to face yourself? Because what comes after that encounter is everything you've always been looking for. Only you didn't know it was on the other side of you. So listen to me carefully, because this is the moment where most disconnect, where they think they've understood the message. But no. This is where it all starts. Because everything I've told you so far means nothing if you don't do anything with it. And here's the hardest part. Truth without action is just another form of self-deception. Knowing who you are, seeing your lies, recognizing your masks. It's useless if at the end of this video you go back to living the same way, if you turn off the screen and settle back into your favorite lie as if nothing had happened. And I know, change doesn't come like an epiphany with heavenly lights. There's no epic music or slow motion. Real change is uncomfortable, silent, dirty. It's the moment when you close your eyes at night and can no longer ignore what you know. It's when you look someone in the eye and feel that if you don't tell the truth, you break. It's when you realize that continuing to pretend costs you more than losing it all. And if you've made it this far, there's no turning back. You know it. Something inside you is already broken. You've seen what's behind the curtain. You can no longer pretend it's not there. So here's the final challenge. Destroy a lie today. 1. The one that hurts the most. The one you've held on to for years. The one that gives you identity. The one you use to protect yourself from yourself. You don't need to tell the world. Just dismantle it within you. Question it. And watch what happens. You'll feel naked, yes. But for the first time, free. Lying is the most sophisticated prison. It lets you move, talk, work, laugh, but always within its limits. Truth, on the other hand, is a leap into the void. It's scary. Your legs tremble. But when you fall, you don't break. You build. Because everything that matters in life, the connection, the purpose, the peace, only arises in the land where lies have died. And here's the conclusion, the one no one wants to hear. Being true hurts, but being false kills. Not suddenly, not with blood. It kills you slowly, from the inside out. It erases you. It turns you into an echo of what you could have been. And that is 1,000 times worse than any failure, any rejection, any loss, because it's the suicide of the soul. So if all this stirred something inside you, don't ignore it. Write it down. Talk about it. Shout if necessary. But don't bury it. Don't return to autopilot. Don't go back to the theater. Now I want you to go down to the comments and leave a phrase. My truth no longer hides. Without context, without explanation. Just that. Let whoever reads it understand. Let them know that down here there are others like you who are tired of masks and are starting to live truthfully. And if this video hit you, woke you up, or simply made you look where you had never looked, subscribe. Not out of obligation. Do it to keep exploring everything that no one dares to say. This channel is not for those who want entertainment. It's for those who are ready to tear off the blindfold, even if it hurts. And now, I say goodbye. But not like everyone else. Not with a, see you in the next video. Number. Because if everything I said here resonated with you, it's no longer me who needs to speak. Now it's your turn. Turn off the screen. Stay silent. And do what you have to do. Because the real ending isn't here. It's inside you.